There's a secret to why most professionals aren't seeing the results they really want and deserve. Most people fail because they consistently fumble moments just like this. No more 100 plus calls a day, no more running out of people to talk to about what you're doing, and no more wasted efforts in spaces with no results. I'm Drew Dockery, and as an entrepreneur for over 20 plus years, I've mastered the art of creating endless opportunities, regardless if it's business or ministry. Join our free community where we can show you how to triple or more than triple your results in 6 months. Hit the link and let us usher you into some new rooms, starting with our C3 community. Hurry up. Your success is waiting on you. I'll see you soon. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Connectors Corner, where we build everything on kingdom principle. I'm your host and master connector, Drew Dockery, and I'm a business coach. And what I do is I help sales professionals, entrepreneurs, and ministry leaders not leave money or results on the table by doing 3 simple things. 3. Number 1 is monetizing your connections. Number 2 is making proper connections. And number 3 is growing your network. I am also the proud author of a book called The Connectors Handbook. It's been out for a few years. You can still get your hands on that, on a copy of that over at theconnectorscorner.com. As of late, we have dropped our second book called Think Sales, Make Friends, Unlock Your Path to Millions from the Second Seat. And that has just dropped. It is our second book. We are super excited about it. Definitely looking forward to having more discussions about that book. Thanks to everybody who has a copy of it. My scenery is a little different today. I'm out at the golf course, and I figured I'd just come to you guys and chat with you guys a little bit where we are today. Yeah, driving range. But just wanted to come to you guys briefly and talk to you about a concept that I was actually having a discussion with my my business team, and we were talking about different marketing strategies, and immediately something dropped in my spirit, because we teach on biblical principle here at the Connectors Corner. So what hit me was I ended up steering the conversation towards marketing and from the aspect of fishing, right? So the example was, because I want to give mass exposure to what we're doing at the Connectors Corner with the new book and the new Facebook community and the different things that we have going on, right? So the goal is to give a wide range of exposure. And we looked at fishing. So I was giving them a breakdown of the story of Jesus talking to his prospective disciples. And he was telling them, if you come with me, I'll make you fishers of men. And I kind of broke down the principles that I have found in the miracle itself. So in the story, Jesus was borrowing the resources of some of his soon-to-be disciples. I think it was Peter. And Peter, being a fisherman, he's been a professional fisherman for years. And he looked at Jesus, who is a rabbi and carpenter by trade. But he had a certain level of respect for him. So Jesus caught them while they were finishing fishing and not getting anything. They were out there for hours, maybe even days, never got anything. So Jesus tells them, hey, I'm looking to start my ministry and do some discussions, right? Do some preaching. So can I use your boat? Peter says, sure. So they go out into the water a little bit. The water carries Jesus's voice to the shore, and he's not that far from the shore, obviously, but they get a chance to have this discussion, and he's talking to the people who wanted to hear his message. So he goes from talking to the people who want to hear his message to telling Peter, hey, after he finishes preaching, let's go out into the deep a little bit. And when they got out there, he tells him, hey, let down your nets for a big catch. And he says, well, sir, I'm a fisherman. We've been out here all night already toiling. And the words that the scripture uses are very descriptive, very powerful words. Toiling is a tough word. Toil means hard work with no results. So you're just doing a bunch of work trying to find some sort of results or something to happen from at least what you're doing to get something out of it, right? And I know a lot of us find ourselves in spaces, business-wise and ministry, where we're just toiling. I did not want to go that deep today, but I mean, that's what it is. So moving on, let's keep the story going because I don't want to get stopped in my tracks by a principle. So as the story would have it, he said, well, we fished all night and caught nothing, but at your word, we will let our nets down. The Bible talks about him letting down a net, and it wasn't enough to bring in what Jesus was trying to get him to understand, that I'm here to be a blessing. You helped me do what I was trying to do ministry-wise, so I'm going to be a blessing to you because I want to show you a higher calling. So he lets down his net, and as he pulls in the catch, the nets begin to break. Now, Peter has to call for all of his other business partners and counterparts to come help drop their nets and bring in the big catch, because the catch was so big, so great, it was breaking the nets. So I heard, one pastor say, I want a net breaking blessing, right? So yeah, we do want a net breaking blessing. We want a blessing that big. However, I am all about retention. I'm not here to lose nothing. So I want to make sure that whatever blessing I'm given, I want to retain everything that I'm supposed to have, lacking nothing, missing nothing. And the powerful part about it is after this net breaking blessing and they bring in their catch, Peter drops to his knees and he repents to Jesus and tells him, I'm sorry for being evil and not believing. And that's when Jesus gives him his declaration, I'll make you fishers of men. So my point during the meeting was, we understand fishing from a go out, get one fish perspective. So it's when you're fishing as a person, it's a hobby. You do it for the peace or the enjoyment. But in Peter's case, he's fishing as a professional. So the question I had asked my team was, understanding the concepts of this story, what can we do to drive a big catch? What can we do business-wise as far as marketing the business, getting the business out there? How can we cast a great net to bring in a multitude of fish as opposed to just going out and just getting one fish at a time? There is a certain level of power in it. There is a certain level of power in it. There's a certain level of understanding. And as a business person, I do realize it's going to take work. And I did help them understand that this is going to take some work. But my goal is about efficiency. I'm not one of those business people who want to have to go do 1,000 things to get a small result. I want to be able to put some activity and momentum, create some momentum in what it is that I'm doing business-wise to drive one result, 2 results, 3 results, and the results begin to amplify as time progresses and as my activity progresses. So that was the concept or the thing I was talking about with my team, and it struck a note. It definitely struck a note because I was causing them to think bigger. They started to think a little bigger than what they would normally think regarding how we do business here at the Connectors Corner. So, with that being the result that we're looking for, we want to maximize our efforts. We want to drive high impact. We want to make sure that our efforts are not wasted while we're doing what it is that we do. So how can we drive traffic to what we do? How can we drive larger levels of exposure to what we do at the Connectors Corner, being a business of business coaching, connecting with different sales professionals, different ministry leaders? How can we drive the impact for that? And that caused them to think. So now I'm bringing that, or I was bringing that to my clients. The question is, what can you do to drive more exposure to what you're doing as far as business is concerned? Is there a way to, let's say you're doing one particular business thing, real estate maybe, and you got one house on the hook, you're doing an open house. There are ways to mass advertise it, but now how can you get that information out there? Do you have a text blast or do you have an email blast? What resources do you have to drive exposure to what it is that you're doing in business? And that's really the question I have for myself right now. You know, Drew, as a business coach, we're getting back into the industry heavy. Dropping a new book and we're full speed ahead. What can we do to really amplify our efforts at a high level to drive major exposure to what we're doing? And I gave them another example of a couple of different business projects of what I had done in the past. We built a 6-figure business in less than 30 days, a business that would generate over $100,000 a year in revenue, and did that in less than 30 days. So that business, the focus was exposure opportunities, controlled exposure opportunities. And we began to do conference calls around the clock. We would do, one in the morning, maybe one in the afternoon, then one in the evening. We did that for like a week straight. And on that call, there wasn't like 1,000 people on the call. There wasn't. That wasn't what it was. It was a lot of small numbers, 5 to 10 people. And we ended up driving a few grand in revenue in 2-3 weeks, officially, paid. But that set us up to have a 6-figure business. And it was really just driving the exposure. It was constantly having access to information, and it was controlled exposures. So there weren't recorded calls. There weren't, it was no recorded presentations. There were no YouTube videos. It was strictly a controlled exposure, live presentation, or via conference call for a good maybe 5 to 7 days. And we would do one in the morning, maybe one in the afternoon if the access needed it, if the activity called for it. We would do one in the afternoon, definitely one at night. Because I remember we were in Houston and I did a late night conference call, and it was like 10 o'clock, maybe West Coast time, 9 o'clock West Coast time, and Eastern Standard Time, it was midnight. And when I was in Houston, it was 11 o'clock. So I was tired. I was exhausted, even though I was in Houston for a business event. But it was just the ability to drive that activity and exposure. So giving that some thought for you who are in ministry, you who do own businesses, what kind of exposure are you giving your audiences, people who want to hear from you, people who want to actually participate in what you're doing business-wise or ministry-wise. If you're an entrepreneur or small business owner or a ministry leader, what kind of exposure are you giving to the marketplace for them to have access to what you're doing? And when you figure that out and you can write down that activity and what that looks like, then we can start to grow to see what's productive and what's not. I come from a background of ministry leaders, and with the ministry leaders I'm connected to, what I've seen was how many of them have built organizations. Back in the day, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, they were growing the churches based on having, revivals, church services, all this different type of stuff. Still a marketing opportunity. But we realize that coming into this generation now, because that was 2 generations ago at this point. So 2 generations ago, that was how they built churches. That was how they built organizations. And now we're really 1 generation away from the mega church. So what were they doing? What are the mega churches doing that is different from what the small churches were doing? And it was pretty much them having access to services and resources. So it wasn't just church and you come into church and we preach to you and, we tell you be saved or you're going to hell. It wasn't just that. That might have been part of it, but it was it wasn't all of it. They did more than just that. So it was activity, it was resources, and each business meeting or, service of some kind drove activity and it drove access for the public in the marketplace. So that is how we have to start to think about our businesses, our ministries, or whatever endeavors we're doing. And as the guy who pretty much understands his purpose at this point, and I'll give that purpose to you guys. My purpose is to bridge the gap between marketplace and ministry. There is a major gap, but there are so many topics, so many things, so many subjects, so many resources, so many talents, skills, and abilities that do overlap. And it's my job to expose the overlap and use it for a benefit. Let people know this is a benefit. The overlap is a benefit. It's not a curse. It's not something that's ill-willed or wrong. It is our job to go into all of the world and make disciples. That's really what it is. But disciples of your calling, whatever it is that you're called to. Maybe you're called to the marketplace. Maybe you're called to traditional ministry. Maybe you're called to ministry and it looks way different from traditional. But you're still called to something. I was at a workshop with Bishop Matthew Brown last weekend. Excuse me. And he was talking about that, being called to something. Everybody isn't called to a specific pulpit. Everybody is not called to a specific church. Everybody's not called to a specific organization or establishment. There are things that have been placed in you that are designed and tailored towards you completing your purpose and assignment. So what are you called to? What are you called to? Are you casting a big enough net for the marketplace, the people who are supposed to be attracted to your voice, attracted to what you're doing, your assignment? Are they able to see you? Are they given exposure to who you are in, whatever lane that you're in? And that's really what it comes down to. So my goal in lifelong, I would say work, is to help bridge that gap between the marketplace and ministry. No, it is not wrong to be rich. It is not wrong to have a lot of money. It is not wrong to be a business mogul. And it's not wrong to just be simply a preacher or a pastor or in ministry on some level. The irony of the whole situation is all of us are in ministry on one level or another. Like my business coach used to tell me, you're selling somebody, no matter what you're selling. You say you're not good at sales, you don't like sales, but you're selling somebody. Either you're selling yourself or you're selling other people. You could be just selling your family on an idea. Just because you're not selling a product or a service doesn't mean that you're not in sales, but you're in ministry. Whether you're ministering behind the pulpit or something else, your ministry may look different, but you're still in ministry. And business is still a ministry, right? Business is still a ministry. So with that being said, I hope what I've said is triggers some thoughts. And like I said, I'm enjoying being outside here in Buffalo, New York, just for this particular episode. So as I tell you guys all the time, over here at the Connectors Corner, dream bigger, believe better, and expect greater. Go get your copy of Think, Sales, and Make Friends. I'll see y'all at the top. Peace.